gotta be ready to slaughter all of Christ's disciples. Like, you gotta really, because you have to be 10 times above the ruthlessness of the men. It was a lot of them telling us how scary she was and not enough of them showing us how scary she was. It didn't feel like Griselda Blanco's wardrobe. Like, I just always think of that picture, and I'm gonna try to find it to insert because y'all gotta see. Like, y'all, she was baby was dapper. Like, I'm gonna use that word. Like, the real female godfather. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, anytime I think of Griselda Blanco, I just think of that white suit and that hat. Like, God, like, she looked like the Don. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be reviewing the Netflix series Griselda, which is supposed to be based on the true story of Griselda Blanco, who was known as the godmother of cocaine. And I have been completely obsessed with the story of Griselda Blanco for ages. And I would not say this show is based on a true story. I would say it is loosely inspired by a true story because there are a ton of inaccuracies and liberties taken with the story. I do think it's worth the watch as just a fictional show, but if you are interested in the true story of Griselda Blanco, I would advise you watch Cocaine Cowboys, which is a documentary from some years ago. It has the real Rivy in Cocaine Cowboys, who is alive in prison, and also Deadly Women is a show I freaking love. And they cover Griselda Blanco in season 3, episode 2. Now, I feel like, of course, any real life story turned into a movie, they're going to take liberties with the story to some extent, but if you're going to take liberties, I would think it is to make the story more entertaining. I feel like they did not do that here with this series. They did not make the story more entertaining or more engaging or captivating. First of all, Griselda's real life story needs no embellishment for entertainment value. It is a pretty captivating story all on its own. And I feel like the things they put in the show, the real life stories, would have been more entertaining to watch. In Cocaine Cowboys, for example, Rivy tells the story of like first meeting Griselda and the story of her like coming to his house and his wife was frying fish and she's just casually talking about like having somebody killed and body chopped up. I like that story is kind of chilling, like the way he tells it. The real story of how Griselda and Rivy met would have been way more entertaining than the story they give us in the series for how they met. I feel like the real life story of Griselda Blanco was a lot more dark and gritty than this series was able to capture. Yeah, I would even say the segment I saw on Deadly Women about Griselda Blanco was way more intriguing and interesting than this series. Now, the series is good, it's fine, but I gotta make comparisons because it's on a real life person, and not just a real life person, because I feel like if I'm just an average viewer who never heard of Griselda Blanco, maybe I wouldn't have been as nitpicky or disappointed with the series. But since this is someone that I have heard of, have seen things about, know about, I even watched that reality show that her youngest son, Michael Corleone, was on. So I guess I'm coming at it from a different angle because I know the story. And I've been thinking for years, why has Hollywood not made her story a movie? Like, I just have always been like, we need the female Scarface story. And I also feel like Griselda Blanco, for me, feels a lot more layered and ruthless than the portrayal in this series. The Griselda that we get here with Sofia Vergara portraying her feels a little, tame, one-dimensional, and honestly doesn't quite feel like a real person for me. Like, at no point in this series do I sympathize for Griselda. At no point in this series do I root for Griselda. At no point in the series do I fear or revere her. But when I watch like Cocaine Cowboys or like real life stuff about Griselda, definitely sympathize, definitely fear and like I get all of those like nuance. I get all of those nuance of emotion when we're talking about Griselda Blanco, and I feel like it just did not hit here. Now, I will say I'm not familiar with Sofia Vergara outside of comedic performances, and I was like, that's who we picked for this? Like, when I just heard about it. But I actually feel like she did very solid. And some of the greatest, like, dramatic actors are those, like, really great comedic actors. I say all the time that Marlon Wayans is so underutilized when it comes to his dramatic roles. He is literally genius when he does dramatic roles. So, as much as I was like, her? She pulled it off, and I feel like it would have been even better, and I could have praised her even more if the script was there. I feel like the things that were not so good for me personally were the speeches that Sofia Vergara gave as Griselda. It felt, in the speech realm in the series, it felt like Sophia playing, like it felt like playing, acting, and acting shouldn't feel like acting. Like, it should feel real. Now, when you talk about the moments where she has to show emotion, where she is like teary-eyed or having reservations regarding killing somebody, or, you know, when she's getting attacked and she's the victim of abuse, those scenes she pulled off brilliantly. I thought she was great. Overall, I feel like Sofia Vergara is a great actress. I think she did well in the role. I think she should definitely do more dramatic roles, but it wasn't the right actress in my humble opinion. I also didn't like the fact of, I guess we have to do stuff in a way that's palatable for the audience, but I don't like how they made Griselda come off. For example, we have her as a victim of abuse from one husband, which she was, and then we have her with another husband that, you know, they have this marriage and she's in love with him, and fine, I'm sure she was for a time, but Griselda killed multiple husbands. They tell us a story in Cocaine Cowboys about how she would slit men's throat that she slept with. Like, why was that not in this series? And if you're going to do a series instead of a movie, I expect for you to really give me the stories and the details. It kind of felt like we dragged this out for, how many episodes was it? Was it 6 episodes or was it 8? I want to say it was 6 episodes. But it kind of felt like y'all could have just condensed this into a little 2-hour movie if y'all weren't really going to get to the nitty gritty of Griselda stories and the layers to her and the many facets to her. Yes, she was ruthless and a killer, and some would say a psycho, but she was a lover, a wife, a mom, like a lot of things, which I get. But I just feel like they put way too much of a sympathetic lens on Griselda. Because at the end of the day, as much as I absolutely love stories like Casino and Goodfellas, and how much I just freaking love like the 70s, 80s cocaine era type stuff and mob stuff, these were bad guys. Like, I mean, they were bad guys. They were killing people. Innocent people were killed. Like, I guess it's opinion as far as drugs. You know, if you think that's, you know, whatever. But ultimately, these are bad guys. Like, yes, they're people that we like love to like peek into and kind of revere and maybe look up to in a way, but they're bad guys. And at the end of the day, Griselda, as much as I have always loved her story and been captivated with her story, she did some heinous, horrendous, terrible things. And I feel like we put way, and yes, you can see these people through a sympathetic lens, because like I said, her in particular is very layered. But I just feel like we hammed it up a little too much with all of the trepidations when she would have to like kill somebody. I also don't like the story we get here with Griselda and the task force that is put together. In real life, Griselda Blanco outsmarted the DEA for decades, and that does not come across in this series. Griselda Blanco in real life was absolutely MF and terrifying. She had men shook. And I don't feel like Sofia Vergara pulled that off. But again, it's not 100% Sofia Vergara. It's also the script and what we did with this story. They have this opening quote of "the only man I ever feared was Griselda Blanco" from Pablo Escobar. That's a hard ass quote. I'm telling you right now. Put that on my motherfucking tombstone. You hear me? But we didn't see. After watching this series, if I had never heard of Griselda Blanco, I'd have been sitting here. Why was he scared of her? Like, I'm sorry, that's how I would have felt. But in real life, since I know the real life story, yeah, I get that shit. But I just feel like anytime the script called for Sofia Vergara to be emotional or scared or shook in certain scenes, the acting was way more believable and natural. And then when she was supposed to be more assertive, giving these speeches, I wouldn't call it bad acting. I just didn't buy it. And I feel like we didn't get enough of the actual real life stories of why men were scared of this woman. And especially when you talk about, you think goddamn patriarchy and misogyny runs our culture. And our culture, I mean American culture. Baby, Latino culture? Like Latinos having a woman be like a female. And I also feel like that didn't come across well enough. A female narco, I feel like when you talk about someone who actually achieved that, you gotta have ice running through your veins, my nigga. Like, you gotta be ready to slaughter all of Christ's disciples. Like, you gotta really, because you have to be 10 times above the ruthlessness of the men to gain any type of footing, leverage, respect. And that didn't come across in the movie. Sorry, TV show. Not movie. Like, Griselda was arguably one of the most ruthless drug lords. She is, they say, responsible for like 300 murders. Let the series tell it. Like, I don't know. And I also feel like we didn't get the nuance of the character. In Cocaine Cowboys, I think it was Rivy that tells us Griselda liked for people to fear her. That she was worse than any of the men. That she was known as the most violent trafficker. That did not come across in the series. Where is her? Like, put her in this. Like, that would, like, come on. Like, I just feel like we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball. Like, the real life story is a fucking movie. Like, that is a 10-part miniseries where you can utilize every single moment of each. You can do a 10-part, hour each episode miniseries on the real life Griselda Blanco. Like, the actual story. And that ish would be riveting, okay? I also feel like the show in general, take out real life story, but just for the type of story we're getting, it wasn't as violent as I thought it would be. It was very light, very tame on the violence, in my opinion. I mean, am I desensitized? I feel like we also missed the mark at where we picked this story up at. We picked the story up in a series where Griselda, I'm not clear on the age. I want to say she was maybe in her 30s, but she was married. She had our 3 kids. The 2 of the kids was like teenagers. That's not where we should have picked the story up at. I personally think we should have picked the story up in Griselda's childhood. Those are pivotal moments to the story of Griselda Blanco. She was forced into child prostitution by her own mother, if memory serves me correctly. But she was a child prostitute. And I think, if I remember correctly, because I haven't watched the documentary and stuff in a while, but I want to say she was forced into child prostitution by her own mother. And Is that why she was so violent in the way she did? Who knows? I don't know. She's not here to tell us that. But as someone who's a writer, if I'm sitting down with this story and I want to give the audience a view into this woman, that's pivotal. That's pivotal to the character that I'm writing about. That's horrific. I feel like that would give the audience a glimpse into what possibly made Griselda cold, unflinching, sadistic, more so than even the men. I feel like we also in the series did not get a real portrayal of the destruction and collateral damage of that era of Griselda Blanco freaking running Miami. Running the drug world. Like, is that how you say it? But okay, I don't want to just talk negatively. And it's not even negatively, it's just the parallels of the real life story versus the series, which honestly, I would not be nitpicky about, because it's even stuff I read that's inaccurate in Goodfellas, but that movie is good as hell, so I don't care that's like, I'm not gonna nitpick if it's good. If the product you give me is good, I'm not that person that's gonna because it's a movie. You know what I mean? When I watched the Ray Charles movie, I don't know if all that ish really happened, but that movie is amazing. But okay, let me say some positive stuff. I do like Sofia Vergara in here. I was impressed because like I said, only know her to do comedic acting. And I also love the ensemble cast. Okay, Dario, fine as hell. Okay, who is he? Where is he? Is he married? If not... But no, I thought the ensemble cast was great. I thought all of the acting was good. I don't know why we ain't filmed this in Miami, which I don't want to be nitpicky about, but... Baby, as a Floridian, I know y'all wasn't in Miami. I know this wasn't Florida. I should have Googled it because I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. But I really feel like this whole movie was filmed in California. Because Florida palm trees and California palm trees are so different. And maybe if you're not a Floridian or a Californian, what do they call California people? Are they called Californians? Like Floridians? I don't know. But unless you a native of Florida or California, maybe you can't really tell. But it's an eyesore if you're a Floridian. Them was not our palm trees. But I mean, Scarface wasn't all filmed in Miami, but they filmed some scenes in Miami. Like, we couldn't get a permit to film in Miami. I don't know. But I feel like for me personally, I wasn't around for the cocaine era in Miami and all that. But from what I've seen, I don't feel like they captured that era of Miami. Okay. I also feel like we didn't fully capture and embody Griselda Blanco as far as the one thing that has always stuck out in my mind when I think about Griselda Blanco. I remember seeing an image of Griselda Blanco where I think she had on like a white suit with a hat on. I think it had black trim. Baby looked fly. Baby looked like a pimp. Like, she looked like the female Godfather for real. And I feel like the wardrobe in this series is actually really great. But it didn't feel like Griselda Blanco's wardrobe. Like, I just always think of that picture. And I'm going to try to find it to insert because y'all got to see. Like, y'all, baby was dapper. Like, I'm going to use that word. Like, the real female Godfather. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, anytime I think of Griselda Blanco, I just think of that white suit and that hat. Like, God, like, she looked like the Don. And that's not how... In the series, there are comments made about how Griselda looks like a housewife. When I think about the real life Griselda, I don't think she looked like a housewife. But they did great with the wardrobe. The wardrobe did look good. I like the hair, the styling of everybody, really. But I just don't think it fit the name of the godmother. The godmother of cocaine. The way I have seen Griselda dressed when we see pictures and stuff of her. I also feel like Sofia Vergara, I needed her to commit to this the way that Charlize Theron committed to the movie she did, Monster, about, what was that latest serial killer? I can't think of the name. But anyway, the real Griselda Blanco was chubby. And why was we fat phobic and had to get a skinny ass actress? I don't understand that. And even if we got a skinny ass actress, why she ain't gain weight? She put on a little nose. Okay, I guess that's commitment. But I don't know. And I mean, Will Smith don't look anything like the person he played in The Pursuit of Happiness. They completely different skin tones, Chad. But I don't know. I feel like her look, that means something in the story of Griselda Blanco. And we did not capture that look, the Dawn that like I think of when I think of Griselda Blanco and the images I've seen of her. Like she walked around like a pimp. Like that's the highest compliment I could give if she walked around looking like a pimp, like looking like the Dawn. And that's not how Sofia Vergara was walking around in this series as Griselda Blanco. So we open a movie where Griselda's husband like pimps her out to his brother to settle his debt, and they get into this whole thing, and she ends up killing him and running off to Miami with her kids. She leaves Colombia, and she starts to build what her empire would end up being, where she runs into this dishwasher named Chucho. And based on the series, you would not know like what a badass Chucho was and how he was feared in the real life story of all of this. But in the series, she meets this dishwasher. She goes to make her first little deal because she was able to swipe like one key, and she's trying to sell it to get her stuff together. She's crashing at her friends and she need money. She got 3 kids, and she asked Chucho, who's also Colombian, if he could just come to this meeting, look dangerous, kind of be her protection. And that's why I'm like, this could have really been a riveting ass like 10-part miniseries. We need to get into Chucho. We need to get into Rivy. We need to get into the Cubans that she had. Man, it's just so much that would have made for such great TV. But we also have where she gets into it where she's trying to sell to Amilcar, I think that's how they pronounce his name. But then he brings in the guy that is his supplier, and I think his name was Papo. And we go into this whole thing where it's not, and I didn't understand this. And it is just so, truly, it is truly the greatest trick the devil ever pulled on the world. The fact that it is so mass believed. This whole women are emotional, men are logical. Men are emotional as okay. It made absolutely no sense to me why Papo had such a grudge, animosity, anger towards Griselda, at least the way it's portrayed in the series. Yes, she tries to scoop his person from him, okay? But why wasn't it good enough? Why wasn't it not good enough for y'all to just ruin her deal and also ruin her on the street and say, we're going to tell every dealer not to buy from you? Why wasn't that good enough? He then proceeds to want to keep tabs on Griselda, and he sees that she is tapping into a market that has nothing to do with their market, nothing to do with their territory. Griselda say, you know what? I'm going to sell to the bankers, the lawyers, the tennis people. Like, she's selling to like the upper class white folk. Did I say class? Upper class white folk. And Papo shows up to this yacht party she throws. And I'm like, baby, you acting like just a hater. Like, why are you so mad? Emotional as, okay? Men are emotional as. And I really, like, it has irked me. I swear to God, it's irked me since I was like 7 years old. Like, at 7, I could see how emotional men are. And how they do not just move with fucking logic. They move off emotion. Papo is moving off emotion in this series. Because why the hell were you, and I mean mad for a long ass time. He go to get some other deal from under her, talking about what did he, oh, y'all, okay, we'll get into it. We ain't on that part yet, but I'm just like, when Papo pull up to this yacht party, I'm just like, you really a fucking hater. She got nothing to do with your territory or your, like, why do you give a ish? And don't tell me it's because she tried to scoop a meal card from him. Nah, that ain't good enough. No, because you already got your get back. You told all the dealers not to buy from her. She was sitting around with cocaine that might as well been baby powder. It was useless. Why do you give up? You already got your get back. But anyway, Griselda is able to pull in this guy from Colombia who supplies her with the product. I think they were calling him German. I think that was his name. And they are able to make a lucrative business supplying the rich white folk. And this is why I'm like, we should have gotten to the real motherfucking cocaine era in Miami of the 80s. Because I feel like the face of drugs is always, thugs, criminals, Colombians, Cubans, black people. But the druggie, like the face of drugs need to be the housewives and the bankers and all the teachers, the upper echelon, because that was Griselda's clientele. They was the ones out here doing the cocaine, okay? They weren't the ones in the streets like getting locked up, but they was the ones making the drug dealers rich. But anyway, and she ends up with this very lucrative business. So the cartel ends up, I think they wanted to like expand to Miami, liked what she had going on, offered her $15 million to buy her business. And this is also where I feel like writing was lacking. I can infer, because I know like the kind of real life story, but just watching the series, we didn't give the audience enough for why she turns down this $15 million. She says quite a bit throughout the series. Griselda says quite a bit throughout the series. Everything I do is for you boys, for my kids, for my family. She says it a lot, but it's very empty. Because what if wouldn't you take this $15 million and sell off into the sunset with your kids if that's really what it's all about? Now, I can infer it's about power. Like Rivy said, she liked for people to fear her. She was high off of the success and all of that. But I just feel like it was really lacking in the story, in the series that we got. She gets offered this $15 million from the cartel. And yeah, she says something to them about, you think we're incompetent. You think we can't, do this. But it just feel like very hollow writing for me personally. Now, she ends up trying to rally together all the other little cliques in Miami to say, nobody take the deal from the cartel. We'll have the power. And she ends up having to go to a meal car because no one will listen to her just because she's a woman. And the meal car tells her, like, don't you realize it doesn't matter. Like, basically, she could have the greatest idea, make the best sense, but as long as the words are coming out of the mouth of a woman, nobody is going to listen to her. So a meal cart goes to tell her behind the scenes, because she wanted to be, because it was this whole thing with Papo about, but who gonna be in charge? And Griselda kept trying to say, we all in this together. Nah. Who gonna be in charge? And she's like, well, why somebody gotta be in charge? Nah, who in charge? Because, men. But because I feel like, and maybe I'm just not wired that way. As long as I'm getting money, I'm successful, I don't give a fuck who in charge. Like, I don't give a fuck. But, ego. Like, just give me my piece of the pie. Don't cheat me. And I don't care who in charge. I don't care who's sitting at the table. I don't give a, I don't. But, so what she ends up having to do is make it seem like, so they have the meeting with the cartel. And it's where a meal cart, I brought all these guys together and I did this and I got Miami. But really behind the scenes, it was all Griselda idea and her doing, and she's the one in charge. And I was very iffy on like how this really gonna go. Like, is a meal cart gonna stick to his word? But a meal cart, he ended up, I skipped this. He got caught up in a case where he murdered somebody and the police was on his trail. They had a witness. And so he was going to take the deal from the cartel. So, like, let them buy you out and you just going on because he had too much heat on him. So Griselda's like, I killed a witness for you. Take the heat off of you. And in the series, we have Dario, who becomes her husband, who is the bodyguard for her brother-in-law. And he's all like, I just want you to know this will cost you. And it's all this in the story regarding like, oh, this is kind of like the first time Griselda finna kill somebody, outside of protecting herself from the ex-husband that they give us in this story. But I'm sitting here like, well, wait a minute. I thought Griselda, first time she murdered somebody, she was a child or a preteen. And that's why I'm like, they changed this a lot, made liberties, which is fine. If it works, it didn't work. But I don't like how this was coming across because, like I said, I just feel like we were trying to put too much of a sympathetic lens on Griselda. And that is also why I said I feel like we should have started from the childhood. Do we have to spend a whole long drawn out time on the childhood? No. But I don't think we should have picked up from killing the ex-husband who was abusive. I think we should have picked up from the childhood. But Dario and Chucho go to take out the witness, and unexpectedly he has a wife and a newborn baby. And they end up holding off. And also in the series, Chucho was shook. Now, I don't know if maybe he was shook in real life at the start, because now I don't know as much as I've read about Griselda and stuff, I don't know the real story of like how Chucho got started in this business. Based on the series, which I could buy, he was Colombian, came over. Only job he could really get was dishwasher, meets Griselda, come along with me, be my bodyguard / hitman as it evolves. And up until this point in the series, he did have to kill some people that was coming after Griselda when she go to make this first deal. But I could buy him being shook at the start when we go do this, because that's how he looked. But that's also why I want a more in-depth story. Like, yeah, we done did this, but let's make another story. Let's get her real life son, Michael Corleone, get him involved, in my humble opinion. Get Rivy involved. Like, get all the people that are still alive that know about this Griselda, the story, the cocaine 80s era, the Cuban immigrants, Colombia. Like, let's do the real nitty gritty story. Okay, that's how I feel. Like, give us the real story on Chucho, Rivy, Griselda, her Cuban army, and the main, like, Cuban heavy hitters that was by her side. Like, come on, man. Let's get the real story. But anyway, another thing that I didn't like I said, they're putting, like, a way too, hard trying to give us this sympathetic lens. Dario goes to call Griselda to say, yo, the witness got a wife and a 6-month-old baby. What you want us to do? And she's kind of like, just do it, kill the witness. And they end up killing the wife and the witness and leaving a 6-month-old baby alive, right? And then later on in the story, Griselda's oldest sons, because she has 3 sons already. Then when she marries Dario, they have Michael Corleone. And her sons end up in a drug game. And also, based off this series, what they gave us, pretty spoiled, like brats, entitled. And one of the sons end up, and in a documentary, they tell us when this happened, he was 15 years old, which I thought was fucking wild. And this is why I'm saying you don't have to embellish or make liberties with the real life story. The issue's already crazy. So her son goes to a club. Was it Uber? I can't remember which son. Her son goes to a club with his girlfriend. He goes to buy her a drink. This guy goes to hit on her and like says something disrespectful. She gets upset. He comes over, Griselda's son, pulls out a gun, shoots the gun in the club, runs off. takes his ass to Chucho house. You can hear Chucho like, you brought the cops over here? I'm in here with my girl and my baby. Baby, if I'm Chucho, I'm gonna say, get the fuck out of here, little nigga. So basically, Griselda's son wanted Chucho to take the gun and say he the one that did it. Are you fucking crazy? Like, are you crazy? And Chucho pops the kid and say, get the fuck out of here. Tell your mama, I don't care, go on. So what they give us in the series? Oh Lord. Okay, so he goes to run and cry to mama, talking about, and then he embellishes and makes up stuff for the story. He don't just say Chucho hit me. He's like, he was gonna serve me up to the cops. Look, I don't have nothing to do with the drug world cartel. Look, I'm just a civilian. I'm too scary. But baby, I got enough sense to know you don't go to nobody like Griselda and say that nigga was finna go to the cops. Come on. You know what you're doing when you say that. So she ends up having Rivy and a few other guys go take out Chucho. Which, goddamn, how easily loyalties break. God, like, I know that's your son, but he deserved to get popped. So, smack, you know. Chucho is riding in the car with his infant son, but his infant son cannot be seen. They go to shoot at him, and his son is killed. 2-year-old baby. And in the series, when Rivy has to tell Griselda, we didn't get Chucho, we ended up killing his 2-year-old son. In the series, she's upset, tears in her eyes. Now, the real life story, they tell us that, yes, Rivy, it was an accident killing the 2-year-old. But when they go tell Griselda, she laughs. She's happy the 2-year-old is killed. That's not what, and I get it. You want to make stuff palatable for the audience. Even Scarface ain't want to kill kids. He drew the line at women and kids. I get it. But baby, if y'all gonna make the move about Jeffrey Dahmer and all the bodies he was chopping up, all the ish he was doing, give us the real story. Okay? We are told in the real life stories, Griselda happily killed women and kids. And it started to build an animosity with her and the other people, the cartel, because they were very much like, you don't kill innocent outside people that don't have nothing to do with the actual thing that's going on. You know what I mean? She kills Papo's father in the real life story. That caused animosity and issues, and for people to start turning on her because he was considered innocent outside of this whole thing. And that's why I'm like, the real life story of Griselda is a sympathetic lens enough with everything she went through as a child prostitute with her mom, etc., etc. We didn't have to try to hammer home in the series to try to get us to look at Griselda extremely sympathetic. Like, come on, like, y'all going too far. At the end of the day, we're chronicling a bad guy. Okay, say goodnight to the bad guy. It'll never be another one. Whatever Scarface said. You'll never see another one like me again. Now, I didn't like that. Because in real life, a homie was killing babies, children, women. She didn't care. Okay? I mean, that was the real life story. And this is why I say we need to get Michael Corleone. We need to get Rivy. We need to get the real life people. Because this will be a gripping ass, amazing ass story to really tell the real deal. And yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable, unsettling. You gonna be disturbed, but that makes a great movie. And I also feel like we needed to delve into Chucho and how he was a force to be reckoned with on his own, because just from watching the series, I'm like, baby, why you just ride around in the car eating a french fry with your son when you know you just slapped Griselda Blanco's? Like, me, my girl, and my baby would have been on the next flight out the second that kid left my house. Like, I'd have been scared. But Chucho just riding around like he ain't got a care in the world. But I also feel like I was annoyed with the series when Griselda's sons are watching on the news about Chucho's 2-year-old being killed, and her son is like mad at her. Like, I just told you to scare him. What? 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 You knew Chucho was gonna be dead. You knew, because why did you put sauce on it to say he was gonna serve me up to the cops? It's just so much more we needed to delve into. Because no, little nigga, you responsible for the 2-year-old getting killed as well. Like, you should be remorseful. Like, you had a hand. This is your doing. From the fact that you pulled the gun out in the goddamn crowded club to going to your mama and saying Chucho hit me and he was gonna serve me up to the cops. You knew. First of all, you know your mama wouldn't go tell me, I just want you to teach him a lesson. Yeah, teach him a lesson by killing him. But also, they tell us the real life story that at one point, Griselda had Rivy and I think a few of the Cubans go take somebody out that were ordered to kill someone. He had his wife and kids there. I think the kids were 4, 5, or 4, 6. They were kids between 4 and 7 years old. And they also had an infant newborn baby. And Rivy goes to tell Griselda, and she's like, she orders the Cubans and Rivy to kill everybody in the house. And they're literally finna kill the 4 to 7 year old and the infant baby. And Rivy is the one that's like, no, we not killing them. And Griselda was mad. Like, I told y'all to kill everybody in the house. And Rivy's like, it's just kids left. We needed to put that in the story. As opposed to having her all teary-eyed when Chucho's son is killed. But I also feel like it's crazy as hell that whole nightclub shooting mess with the girl. I find it crazy that her son was 15 years old. Like, that is so, like, what a life you must have lived in just 15 years. Like, wow. Like, baby, that's what y'all was doing at 15. Like, that is so outlandish. But anyway, so we end up killing that witness. You know, we got the whole thing going with the cartel. Emil Carr is the head of everything, but Griselda is the head behind the scenes. But come to find out, the cops got more evidence. They got fingerprints, whatever. So Emil Carr ends up getting arrested anyway. So what happens is her man, Jeremy, who she pulled into this, she convinced him like, yo, this Miami thing and her whole plan. He ends up switching sides on her. And he links up with the other dealers and Papo and the cartel, and they completely cut Griselda out. And I think the guy was Rafa. I think that was the cartel guy. He goes, because Griselda's like, wait, I need to talk to him. He's just like, you know what, let her over. Come on. Yeah, let's talk. And he goes to tell her like, no, I know it was all your idea. I know these idiots could never think of this. And then I'm also sitting here like, Papo, all the other men that want to be misogynistic and hate Griselda, y'all don't hear what he's saying about y'all? He calling y'all idiots. We know that the woman is smarter than y'all. And like, I don't know. I was just sitting here like, do men see themselves? Like, are y'all here? But Rafa goes to tell Griselda, like, I know it was all your idea. I know that these idiots could never think of this. But you think I want to give this all to a mouthy, smart bitch? And I'm just like, but misogyny will lead men to their graves, and they don't even give a as long as they're not giving it to the smart bitch, I guess. But he's like, you think I'd rather give all this to some smart bitch instead of these idiots that I can control? And I'm standing here like, yo, man, don't hear what he's saying about y'all. And he goes to tell her, the truth is you scare me more than they do. And I'm just still sitting here like, I know y'all in the club, but the men don't hear this. But I also feel like it was a lot of show not tell with the series. We had the quote from Pablo Escobar at the top. We have the cartel guy saying to Griselda, you scare me more than the men do. But it was a lot of them telling us how scary she was and not enough of them showing us how scary she was, which is also why I said we needed to throw in the real Griselda reaction when Chucho's 2-year-old was killed and she was laughing about it. You, as an audience, you gonna sit here and be shook like, oh, I know why Pablo Escobar was scared of this bitch. Like, I know why men was scared, because goddamn, we needed to see that ice in her veins side of Griselda for us to really appreciate scenes like this. What a cartel, man, I'm scared to even say the word cartel. Like, but for the cartel guy to say, man, I'm more scared of you than the psycho ass Colombian men that's like more scared of you. They didn't show us enough. They just was telling us. Now, baby, why when she finna leave, Papo is all like, the door is that way, bitch. And I'm just saying, like, do men not see themselves? Like, does it not register at all? Oh, yeah, men not emotional. Oh, yeah, this isn't emotional at all. So, Griselda ends up, we got all the Cuban refugees that's coming over, no longer wanting to be under communist rule, you know, over in Cuba with Castro. Kind of the story they give us at the top of, you know, Scarface. And Griselda ends up being able to tap into the Cuban immigrants coming over, and she bands together with them. She gets a literal army. And I feel like this wasn't fleshed out well enough either. Because, like, old boy whose cousin ends up getting killed, the Cuban guy, he was like a heavy hitter. Like, one of her right-hand people. Like, we needed to really delve into the Cubans that she had. Like a army. A literal navy. Like, well, I guess the navy is the ocean. So we'll just stick with army, okay? But she goes to start killing every single solitary person that took her territory. And she ends up killing German in the liquor store, which was a real life story that happened with that whole liquor store shootout. A bomb at Papo's house, but come to find out he was still alive. His dad was killed. But my thing is, and look, maybe it's just me. Maybe now this is where I guess my ego might come in. I don't want you to just be shot in the liquor store, but I want you to know that it's me. You took my territory, you screwed me over, and it's me that's taking you out. Like, I need you to look me in my eyes and look me in my face and know that you getting taken out of this world by me. I don't know. I ain't with the drive-by and the bar. No, I need you to look me in my face and know it's me. But hey, you know, I guess everybody got a little ego, and I guess that's mine. Cause I hate that. I hate stuff like that. Like, I need you to know it's me. It's the bitch that y'all ain't want in this. Yeah, I'm the one taking y'all out. Now, Papo ends up retaliating and goes to one of Griselda. Like, she's protected behind the walls with her army, but they are able to get to two of her girls, because that was her thing. Was she brought girls over from Colombia, and her way to get drugs in is she would put the cocaine in their, like, the lining of their bra and different stuff like that. And she had certain girls here working for her, and I was mad because one of these girls I really liked that was like working as a prostitute or sex worker with Griselda back in Colombia back in the day, and Griselda goes to you know, pull her into this. They end up getting killed along with one of the Cuban guys, and their heads are chopped off, left outside the house on the lawn. The house is on fire, and they try to make it seem. So we have this scene where Griselda, Dario, and was it Chucho or was it the Cuban? I can't remember how they did it in the series, but I know Dario was there. Griselda and Dario go to take old boy out, and they're portraying it to the audience like this is Griselda dropping her first body outside of, like, her husband. They're trying to make it seem like outside of, like, self-defense having to do kill her husband. This is Griselda, like, first time dropping a body, and she all shook. And I felt like also not wise, because you could see somebody look at her through the blinds, but she just don't even say nothing, just leave. But I'm just like, no, didn't she commit her first murder as a preteen? Like, what is y'all doing with the story? But the cartel, her army is also not just taking out the people that took her territory. They are attacking all the cartel drops, killing off the people taking the cocaine. So Rafa from the cartel ends up calling Griselda to offer her territory back. And this was the whole point. This was exactly what you wanted, but it's still not good enough. And she ends up burning all the coke, which I was like, oh, hell no. This crazy even for Griselda. Like, it maybe could have let slide a bit if we could have still had our cocaine. But burning the cocaine, I didn't understand. But I think this was one of the speeches that was actually good that Sofia Vergara did. She was giving a speech about how what was this the time before she burned the cocaine? Was this the when she gave the speech about her correlation with the Cubans and how they look at me a certain way because I'm a woman. They look at you a certain way because you're Cubans. But she didn't say Cubans. It was like a word that I can't pronounce. I think maybe it's a Spanish word that the Cubans were called. I think it started with the M. But they were called something. And she was like, they look at you like that and like you're only good enough to wash their dishes and, you know, we're not going to stop until they're begging us and we're going to be eating lobster at the, like, you know, like she gave like this speech and it was actually a good one. But I didn't like how we did the scene with her burning the cocaine. It wasn't badass. It didn't come off like I think they intended for it to come off. That's just my humble opinion. But one thing I thought was crazy too was she was in a series. She was all about like hiding what she was doing from her kids. But I just see her like half the kids don't know what's going on because you always out here yelling, giving a speech, coming home with blood on you. The kids live in a mansion. They don't go to hell to school. What the kids think going on? But Griselda ends up, now this was a true life story. This part was, we found out Papo is still alive. And remember, he killed our folks at the house, cutting their heads off. One was the Cuban guy's cousin. And she ends up getting the Cuban cousin to avenge his cousin by killing Papo at the airport. Papo, I want to say, went to Colombia to bury his father or something, was coming in from the airport. Now, they don't tell us in the series, but she actually, this is something Griselda actually did, was to do the hit at the airport, which is batshit crazy because your ass going to jail. She actually wanted Rivy to do it, but he was like, oh, hell no, that's a suicide mission. I don't do suicide missions. But the Cuban guy ended up doing it, who actually, like, I think he used a machete, I don't know, something, stabbed the man to death because Griselda specifically wanted him stabbed to death, kills the guy in the airport. So we got that in the series, but not the full, but we actually got it in the series, and it was the real life story. So Griselda finally sits down with the cartel, and she gets everything she wanted right. But I did not, oh Lord, they killed Arturo, bro. I was so mad. They took out her right-hand man, Arturo. And I was so upset about that. Because you don't with the cartel. And that was basically the message they were sending to her. Like, you with our shipments. So we got to do something so you don't ever F with us again. And I also don't like how the timeline was in the series. In real life, Griselda ran the this cocaine empire and stuff. I want to say, I can't remember exactly. I should have refreshed myself on the documentaries and stuff, but at least 10 years or something. She was at the top of this, at least 10. But in the series, the timeline feels odd for me. And I feel like after she sits down with the cartel, it's like 3 years later and she's like running Miami and her sons are like sniffing coke and they in the business, and the task force, you know, is making Griselda think there's an informant, but there isn't. They're like playing on her paranoia. I just feel like this timeline in the series felt very odd for me. And also, we have this paranoia that suddenly pops out in the series with Griselda. And Dario is trying to tell Dario, was this how Michael Corleone's father was in real life? Because he was a straight up triple double OG. I loved Dario, like loved him. I don't know anything about him in like real life, other than they say Griselda had him killed. But I really don't know anything about like him. But I'm like, was this how Michael dad was? Because he was a stand up, solid as, look, he was solid as hell. He was really like a triple double OG. Love Dario. But he's trying to tell Griselda, trying to talk fucking sense into her. Like, maybe they just had other intel. Maybe there is no informant. And he literally tells her, the cops are trying to get into your head. And she like just has this crazy paranoia now. And they throw a birthday party for Dario, and she completely cracks up at the party, and she do crack, which I thought was, did Griselda do crack cocaine in real life? Like, I need y'all to cite sources, because look, I'm not buying it. I don't know. I don't know. Now that I don't know, but I'm just sitting here like, we got cocaine. Why is we sniffing? Like, why is we smoking crack? Like, I don't know. Like, but she ends up paranoid, turning on people that's loyal to her. And I'm just like, yep, the end is near. But this was odd for me because in the series, this felt jarring up until now, up until Dario's birthday party. In the series, Griselda never came off as paranoid or doing outlandish things like she did at this party. Griselda walks in on Dario having a conversation with one of her girls. They could not be sitting further apart. It could not look more platonic, but she flips the hell out. Like, he's like, we just talking. Oh, she don't talk. Because the girl's a sex worker. But at the party, she pulls out this machine gun. Ain't that called a machine gun? She pulls out this machine gun. She goes to like shoot up this car outside. She goes into the party. She makes old boy strip naked, tell him to get on his knees and bark like a dog. And she makes this other girl and guy take their clothes off and start yada yada. But this ain't make no sense to me as we're watching a story that is supposed to evolve, or we're supposed to watch a character devolve like Scarface. But in Scarface, from the beginning, you could see that he was unhinged, possessive of his sister, paranoid. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It didn't just these traits suddenly appear when he had success. There was always, now he became more and more paranoid, more and more unhinged, but it was always there. In this series, there is no evolution or depth or devolving of the Griselda character. All of a sudden, she's doing outlandish-ish like this at the party. Get on your knees and bark like a dog. Like, she never did that in the series. Ever. Not once. Until this moment. So it's jarring and it makes absolutely no narrative sense. All of a sudden, she's massively paranoid. Which they do tell us in real life, Griselda was extremely paranoid. But in the series, when was she paranoid? Until this moment. Until the cops got her stash house and she thought there was an informant. All of a sudden, she's so paranoid that she don't even trust the people most loyal to her. It just made no sense in the story, in the series. Now, what I didn't like, but I was scared. Now, I don't know if Carmen was a real person in real life. But Griselda has this friend, Carmen, who was the ex-wife of a drug dealer, also abusive, whatever. She got out of that, started her a new life, had her own little business, travel agency, was on a straight and narrow. Didn't want Griselda to pull her into the drug game, but she did. She was the one that would book the flights and get the tickets and stuff. She was a solid as real triple OG friend. And Carmen comes in because she got approached by the cops. So she comes back to the party to tell Griselda this. Like, basically, you got heat on you. A cop approached me and she sees Griselda doing this wild-ish, comes in, stops her. They have a real ass talk, which I felt like should have been this theory that we throw in with this talk about how Griselda spent so much of her life fighting to the point that you're still fighting and lose sight of what you're even fighting for or why you're fighting. We could have really fleshed that out as far as the character of Griselda and why she did not take that $15 million buyout, of why with all of this regard to all of this stuff that she was doing. But when I tell you, Carmen goes to tell Griselda, well, actually, the reason I came back from back to the party after I left is because I got home and a cop was waiting for me and offered me a deal. Griselda flipped the hell out and tries to kill the girl. And y'all, when I tell you I was getting heart palpitations, so I was like, please don't tell me that Carmen, who is solid as hell, is finna get killed. Griselda is strangling a poor girl to death, but Dario comes in. If Dario had not walked in, Carmen would have been dead. Why the hell would I come back to your party to tell you the cops approached me if I'm a damn informant? I wouldn't have came back to the Mexican party. But she ended up telling Dario she don't trust him and he could go. And she's just like, F everyone. And narratively, I have no clue where that came from. I have no clue why all of a sudden at this moment, Griselda is like, F everyone. Baby, after this, because Carmen told that cop, F you, get the hell up out my face. Baby, Carmen goes to the cop like, yo, about that deal you offered. Because one thing I ain't finna do is be loyal to somebody who try to kill me. It's be loyal to somebody who ain't loyal to me. Now, they tried to spin the tale in the series that there was a cousin of the cartel family that her and Griselda are hanging out. She's the one in the series that introduces Griselda to cocaine to crack, and they party and hanging out. The cousin gets high, falls and crashes into a table, presumably OD'd and died, and it's like an accident. But the real life story, which I don't know why we ain't put this in the series. The real life story, Griselda killed the cartel cousin. It was not an accident. But Dario see where everything is headed with Griselda, tells her she's a terrible mom. She's ruined her 3 sons. He's not going to let her ruin Michael. So she takes Michael, which is the youngest son that was on that reality show I said I used to watch. What happened to that show? I was so hooked to that show. But he leaves and takes Michael. Now this what I ain't understand. If I'm dealing with a woman like Griselda, baby, Dario just takes Michael and go to his mama house in Colombia. We need to go somewhere that the maniac Griselda can't find us. Like, I didn't understand that. She know where you at. She keep calling your mama house. Like, I don't understand. Like, you should know the woman you're dealing with. Now, the cartel is after Griselda. There is a hit out. Well, in real life, there was a price on her head. In the series, the guy that was with the cartel's cousin, the cartel family's cousin, he was in love with her. There was a relationship. He's upset because she's dead. And they go after Griselda. She runs to California with Rivy and her kids. And we never found out what happened to Chucho. They kill his... In the series, we don't find out what happened to him. But I think if I remember correctly, in real life, his son, he did, like the series said, leave his son's body in front of like a mosque, a temple, a church, something like that. A religious building. And him and his wife went somewhere. I don't know. But in the series, the show just forgets about Chucho. I thought that was very odd. I don't like when movies or shows do that. Like, what happened to that character? Like, you give us a character and then we just never hear from them again. There's no wrap up to his story. But anyway, Rivy, Griselda, and her sons are all in California. Obviously, minus Michael Corleone, who's in Colombia with his dad. And Rivy, who stayed loyal, ends up getting a tip when he's out of the hotel that Rafa is on the way there to kill Griselda, obviously. And this dude is trying to make a phone call on the payphone, ain't got no quarters. Then this really happened. Go to the bank to try, and I thought this was crazy though. He go to the bank asking for change for quarters, and the lady's just like, well, if you ain't a customer, I'm saying, like, my nigga, you can't give me change for $1. Like, come on now. So he ends up pulling out a gun and robbing the bank for some quarters to make the call. And this is actually what gets him caught up in the series, because they have him on tape robbing that bank. And I'm just like, and I think they was able to get like his license plate. And that's how they're able to catch up with him. I can't remember in real life how they got Rivy. But he goes to rob the bank to get quarters, to call Griselda and warn her, which he could have just got out of Dodge himself. But he warns her that the cartel is on the way. So she sends her sons, like, you know, y'all, Rivy wants to meet y'all to go have dinner. I'm going to stay behind, whatever. She ends up, and now this is, if I remember correctly, Griselda actually did this when there was a hit out on her. She calls the cops on herself so she could go to prison to protect her from the cartel. Because they can't get her on any murders. They can only get her on drugs. And in the series, we're told that they could only get her like 5 years max for like drug charges. They could not get her on any murder charges. But because of that bank robbery, oh wait, no, not because of the bank robbery. The youngest son was still a minor. Like I said, in real life, I don't know how we got Rivy. I don't know if this happened or not. But in the show, the cops are like, yo, one of her sons is a minor. Rivy is with them. We could put out a bulletin that the kid is kidnapped. So that's how they're able to get Rivy. So we could get Rivy on murders and all this stuff. So Rivy flips on Griselda And we're finally able to get her. But then Rivy has this whole plan where he ends up having phone sex with the district attorney's like assistant. So the whole case blows up. They don't have anything on Griselda now. And Rivy sends her a message through her lawyer like, you're welcome. Now, I don't know what happened in real life. I don't know if we even, I don't know. I can't remember that. But they are finally able to get Griselda. I want to say she goes to prison for 7 years. And throughout the series, I don't know if this is a real character from real life, but there's a female detective that has been on Griselda's trail. Even at the top where, like the beginning of like her whole career, where none of the other cops even believed that there was a woman narco in any shape or form. This woman was on the trail. And I thought this was crazy. Now, this was a fly line. They're in the car together, taking Griselda back to Miami from California. And the cop is saying to Griselda, I know it must make you mad that you beat all those men just to get, caught by a bitch. And that was a hard line. I liked it. But I thought this was crazy because Griselda going to tell her that, like you obsessed with me and you probably thought about me every day. I haven't thought about you once. Baby, the detective's gonna say, this is just my job. And I'm saying like you are alive straight from the pits of hell. This detective was obsessed with Griselda. She was emotional that Griselda was and trying to think of ways to scheme and put out the bolo or whatever about the kidnapped child. Like you was obsessed, girl. You was obsessed, okay? Now, I thought this was sad. We end up seeing Dario, I don't know how many years later from when Griselda got locked up, but we see Dario in Colombia. Oh, I thought this was, wait. Let me get my thoughts together because I was finna jump to something else. We see Dario in Colombia at his mom's house with Michael. Someone knocks on the door. Dario goes out. Nobody's at the door, but he sees somebody down in the car. And then I think he hears his mom yell or hears Michael Corleone yell, dad or something. I can't remember. But he runs back in the house. Michael gets snatched up and Dario gets killed. And that hurt my heart. And we know in real life, allegedly, I guess, Griselda did have Michael Corleone's dad. Well, look, allegedly. Okay, that's what they say. She had quite a few husbands killed, as well as Dario. Now, I don't know if the way it happened in the series is how it like went down in real life. I don't know. But I thought this was crazy. Her kids come to see her in prison with Michael Corleone with them. And I'm just like, what? You're in prison. It's not like you got your son, got him back to be with you. You're in prison. Wouldn't it have been better for him to just stay with his grandmother and his dad, which in the end, I think that's where he ends up, is with Dario's mom. I'm like, why did you kill? He should have just stayed there. But as we're watching the series, because I do know her sons were killed, but I couldn't remember but I was watching the series like, well, wait, if the cartel can't get to you, why didn't they kill your sons? But then, 7 years later, that female detective goes to see Griselda in prison to tell her your sons were killed. Like one was shot in Colombia doing a drug deal. The other one was shot like in a crowded nightclub. And she's like, I think they, were waiting until your time in prison was almost up to make it as painful as possible. And it really reminded me of that line from Scarface when Tony's mom, I think is it when Gina gets killed? But Tony's mom is like, no, it's not when Gina was killed. Gina's killed, at the end when he gets killed. It's when she's telling Tony that Gina is like missing. And she's like, everything you touch, you destroy. But that is what was ringing in my head at this moment when we found out that Griselda's kids were killed. But I was sitting here like, and I really want to know, was this detective real in real life? Because what if did you come to deliver the news? Like, that felt evil. That felt like you're gloating and happy to be like, yeah, bitch, your kid's dead. Like, I ain't like that. Like, yeah, so I gotta do something. I gotta look up and see if she was really real. Because what detective comes to a prison for somebody from a 7-year-old case to deliver news that their kids are dead? That seemed evil. But Michael Corleone was alive. Obviously, he's still alive today. And he ended up with Dario's mom, according to the series. Which that's why I don't know in real life who he was raised with, but in the series they tell us that he ended up with Dario. I'm like, why did you kill Dario? You should have left the kid where he was. Now, Griselda does get out of prison, and now this part was factual in the series. She gets out of prison, and she goes back to Colombia, and she ends up being gunned down later on at 69 years old. Presumably, I don't know, by the cartel. They finally got her. I don't know. I'm glad Carmen made it out alive. I'm sad Dario didn't. I'm sad Arturo didn't. Glad Rivy made it out alive. But I mean, tragic tale. Tragic tale. Overall, I didn't feel like, I thought this series was solid, enjoyable enough, entertaining enough. I think Sofia Vergara is a really good actress. I think she did really solid. Well, I take out my really. I think she did solid. It's not as gritty or doesn't feel as real. Not as provocative or edgy as I expected, especially when you're talking about the story of Griselda Blanco. The writing just wasn't there for me. The final scene on the beach when Griselda is alone, all I could think was, man, power corrupts. Power corrupts. But thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments, how did you feel about the Netflix series Griselda? I definitely feel like this was not that epic female Scarface movie or series that I have been looking for like 100 years. I want someone else to do this story and do it better. And I mean, we make multiple movies about the same thing, or, you know, like the same real life story. So I don't think that's a big deal. Get the real life people. Get Griselda's son, Michael Corleone. Get Rivy. Get whoever else is left alive that knows the tale. And tell the real deal story. And don't make it a movie, because I feel like it's way too much. Because I want to know, put in the story of Chucho, put in the story of Rivy, put in the story of the Cuban army that Griselda had, put in her childhood. I really need some, if I was just like a billionaire, like Hollywood person, I would put this together, because I want a 10-part, 1 hour each episode mini series on the real, no holds barred, nitty gritty story about Griselda Blanco. And wait, you know what? I don't know. I said bring in Michael Corleone, but I don't know, because will a child ever tell the real, ugly, not so pretty story of their parent? I don't know. But we need the real son, because we need the factual, information. But we got to just be ready to tell the ugly, no holds bar, gritty story. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.